Tacoma International Airport. I'd like to acknowledge all of the elected officials and Ukrainian organizations and representatives who have gathered here today. Governor Jay Inslee, King County Executive Dale Constantine, Seattle Mayor Bruce Harold, thank you for all of your efforts in supporting the Ukrainian community and gathering here today to show collective support and solidarity. Welcome to the Consular General of Ukraine, Mr. Dmytro Kushneruk, Honorary Consular of Ukraine, Mr. Valery, and the community leaders representing an amazing and incredible grassroots partnership across Washington, Oregon, and California. So much of what you're seeing today, they made possible. The director and staff at Nova Ukraine, the leadership of the Ukrainian Association of Washington State, Ukrainian American Cultural Association of Oregon, and South Washington. We stand with you today to support your efforts during this time of profound hardship. Thank you for your inspiring leadership and courage. Your resistance is a testimony to democracy. Before I begin, I want to acknowledge that we in King County are on traditional lands of the Coast Salish people. Past and present, and honor with gratitude the land itself and the first people. This acknowledgement only becomes meaningful when combined with accountable leadership and informed action. Today, we are surrounded by people who share a commitment to democracy and who are willing to stand up when there is a threat to those trying to simply live in peace. Our port is proud to be working with so many generous donors all around the region who are coordinating shipments of supplies to Ukraine. Ports are also a place for refuge in a storm. We have been honored to welcome Ukrainians through our airport as they come to Washington for safety and reunite with their loved ones. As many of you know, we have a welcoming center at SEA we stood up when most recently to welcome Afghan refugees. Now we've expanded to include support to recently arriving Ukrainians. As a former refugee myself, I know what it's like to come to a new country in search of a better home. The Port of Seattle is committed to fulfilling our nation's promise to arriving refugees. Our airport and Washington partners are committed to doing everything we can to create an environment socially and economically where arriving refugees have the tools they need to build and sustain a new life. I would like to thank all of the partners represented here today who share our value and mission to do right by our new neighbors. As a former refugee myself, I always say, never lose hope, never lose courage, and never lose faith. We are committed to being a welcoming region for our immigrant and refugee communities. I'm so proud of the regional partnerships that you see here today. I'm proud of Governor Jay Inslee, Executive Dale Constantine, Mayor Bruce Harold, who I also worked very closely with at the City of Seattle as his Director of the Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs. We are so committed to standing with our Ukrainian American community here and abroad. Now I'd like to introduce our Governor, Jay Inslee, to say a few words. Thank you.
Slava Ukraina, glory to Ukraine. The people of Washington know that when Putin's violent hallucination is in the dustbin of history, the people of Washington State know that the courage, the resolute determination, and the unvanquished spirit of Ukraine will always be remembered and respected in the state of Washington. And we are joining with the people of Oregon in sending 32 tons of medical supplies to the people of Ukraine to help them in these darkest hours. And we do so because every single person in the state of Washington has been touched and inspired by the courage of President Zelensky. I have long known of the courage of Winston Churchill that was a beacon of hope and resolute determination in World War II. We have seen the same leadership in President Zelensky standing up against the forces of tyranny. And Washington State is allied with that effort That is why we are insisting we will not do business in the state of Washington with Russian companies now under the tyranny of Vladimir Putin. It is why, and we are now in the process of completing that effort, it is why we stand with the people of Brovary that has lately been assaulted by Putin, that is a sister city with Tacoma. It is why we will welcome refugees from the Ukraine. We are sending medical supplies east now. We will welcome refugees coming west later. We want to take care of them now when they're in Poland. We want to take care of them when they get here, and we will do so. Glory to Ukraine, Slava Ukraine, we stand with them.
Героям слава.
I'm Dow Constantine. I'm the executive of Martin Luther King County, and I'm honored to be with you today. First, I want to recognize the extraordinary efforts of Nova Ukraine, of the Ukrainian Association of Washington State, and of the many others who have collaborated to gather these critical supplies for the people of Ukraine. From the beginning, it has been partnerships of individuals and organizations across our region and across our state that have united to stand with Ukraine against Putin's aggression. And time and again, over the years, the people of King County have shown their care for the victims of conflict. Victims from Syria, victims from Afghanistan and elsewhere, and here where the Ukrainian people are fighting, yes, for their families, yes, for their countries, but also for the future of democracy itself. We stand with you. We welcome refugees. We too are ensuring that not one single King County taxpayer dollar is going to a company aligned with the Kremlin. And as I stood at the rally with thousands of Ukrainians and Ukrainian Americans and supporters at the Seattle Center 3 weeks ago, I announced that we would open the doors for our employees to begin giving to support humanitarian relief in Ukraine. And I'm pleased to let you know that as of tonight, several hundred King County employees have donated over $150,000 for additional humanitarian aid, and I'm very proud of them for stepping up. The people of Ukraine are fighting for the future of a free Europe and of the free world. And we here are humbled by their courage. We are in awe of their steely determination. And we repeat again that we are with you, Ukraine, in this fight. It is my honor to introduce to you the mayor of the city of Seattle, Bruce Harrell. Thank you, Dow. As the fourth up on this lineup, this great lineup to show our love and support for Ukraine, I remind you in baseball terms, usually fourth place is your power hitter. Port Commissioner Hamdi Mohammed got on base with a solid hit. The governor got walked. Dow got hit by a pitch. They're on base, though, with 32 pounds, 32 tons of love and support for Ukraine. I want to thank our local Ukrainian community for meeting with us so the world could better understand this threat to democracy that Governor Inslee spoke about so passionately. This is a threat to all of us. So we issued executive orders to make sure we're working with the local Ukrainian community to make sure that we are coordinating every resource we have. One of our resources is our arts culture. So on April 4th at the Benaroya Hall, we will have a concert put on by our Seattle Symphony. The tickets sold out in like 6 hours, so now you have to watch it streaming on Kong. It's an online event now, but that showed in 6 hours the passion and support that we are giving to our brothers and sisters in Ukraine, and refugees all over the world are seeing that this is a threat to all of us.
shipping items is a logistical challenge. It presents many issues, and so our leadership at our port, our leadership at our state, our leadership at our county, and on the local basis in the city of Seattle, we are motivated with laser precision to make sure that we show everyone in this world how committed we are to this. So the governor talked about 32 tons. I say 32 tons of love, of support, of much needed goods and supplies. We stand with you, and it is absolutely my honor to introduce our next speaker, the General Counsel of Ukraine in San Francisco, Mr. Dmytro Kushnaruk. I present to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, so first of all, I'd like to thank the governor, mayor, and county executive and commissioner to be here to attend this very important time for Ukraine. As you know, there is already more than a month that this war has been started by Russia against Ukraine. And in this war, our heroic soldiers stand strong. Probably 1 month ago, after you've seen the first reports in the news, nobody expected that in 1 month we'll be standing here in Ukraine, we'll be standing strong. And Ukraine stands and will stand. But unfortunately, this war kills a lot of Ukrainian civilians and Ukrainian children. As I speak right now, the number of Ukrainian children have been killed is 134 Ukrainian children were killed, and more were injured, unfortunately. And these children being killed in Mariupol, Chernihiv, Kharkiv, Bucha, Irpin, Gostomel, and unfortunately many other bigger and smaller cities. And people in these cities, they need help because they are encircled by Russian troops or sieged by Russia. So the help is very much needed. That's why today, on behalf of Ukrainian people, I'd like to sincerely thank everyone who is taking part in organizing, collecting, and sending this aid of medical supplies to Ukraine. And I'd like to name a few. The Ukrainian Association of Washington State, and personally Lydia Kovalenko, for organizing the collection of these goods from hospitals here in Seattle and in Washington State. Also, Ukrainian American Cultural Association of Oregon and Washington, Mr. Igor Levkiv, Alexander Moskal, from getting the necessary medical supplies for Medical Team International. Also, Stanford Student Medical and personally Josh Pickering for initiating this process. And of course, organization Nova Ukraine from California for raising funds and spending these funds effectively to pay for the plane and for the huge work they do to send the so important medical and humanitarian aid to Ukraine from California. So these medical goods on this plane, they will go to Ukraine, and with the cooperation of the Ministry of Health of Ukraine, they will be distributed to hospitals who need them desperately, who need them right now. And as you can see from these examples, so Ukrainians on the West Coast, they cooperate very great between each other. There is great cooperation between California, Washington State, Oregon State, and I think that the governments of these states as well cooperate and can cooperate even better. We need more planes to come to Ukraine to bring the necessary medical aid to Ukraine from Seattle, from Washington State. I know that the governor is already working on that. There will be success. We need more humanitarian aid to be sent or not only medicine, but food. Food is also very important to bring to those cities that are under siege by Russia. As well as we need more tactical protective equipment like body armor, helmets, radio stations, civil use drones for our soldiers. And what's more important, we need a new land lease which will allow the aircrafts to be sent to Ukraine, the long range of air defense systems, multi-rocket launch systems, heavier long-range artillery, and many other things to be sent in large quantities to Ukraine to protect the sovereignty and to protect the freedom. Because this war is not just about Ukraine, this is the war for freedom in the world. Because we have Ukrainian soldiers who are fighting, but we need more weapons. So Ukraine will definitely win this war. We have no doubts about that. But it's not a short war, unfortunately, so we need to keep focused, keep our attention to help Ukrainian people. So I ask you to stand with Ukraine, support Ukraine, and Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава!
I will now would like to give a floor to Igor Markov, Director of Nova Ukraine.
Ukraine has been a democracy for over 30 years. The laws of Ukraine ban communist and Nazist activity
to the same degree. The majority of Ukrainians want Ukraine to be in NATO and in the EU. They don't want to be with Russia. On January 24th, without declaring war, Russia started a full-scale war against Ukraine, attacking from the north, east, and south. Russia sent almost 200,000 troops with tanks, artillery, and airplanes. It launched 1,500 ballistic and cruise missiles to the day, attacking all regions of Ukraine. When this blitzkrieg failed, Russia started destroying civilian infrastructure and killing civilians. Many thousands of civilians died, many children. There are many wounded. Almost 7 million people are now refugees. To prepare this relief cargo, the Ukrainian Association of Washington and the Ukrainian American Cultural Association of Oregon assembled 32 tons of donated medical supplies, including bandages, sterile surgery kits, needles, and syringes, IV tubes, pediatric medicines, and many more. These supplies are needed all over Ukraine and will save many lives. The Ukrainian Student Association at Stanford helped sort and assemble the cargo. They also ran a joint fundraiser with Nova Ukraine and turned to Nova Ukraine to complement the funds to pay for this plane. Josh Pickering handled plane logistics. To help Ukrainians who fight for democracy against Russian dictatorship, Nova Ukraine has previously shipped over 150 tons of medical supplies. This full cargo plane represents a big step up for us in our efforts and supports amazing efforts by the Ukrainian communities of Washington and Oregon. We know that Ukraine will be victorious in this war, but Ukraine needs our help, not the least to save lives. Together, we can do more. I'm very happy to introduce Katya Sidova, who represents the Ukrainian Association of Washington State.
Thank you. My name is Katya Sidova. I'm an advisor to Ukrainian Association of Washington State, and I stand before you speaking on behalf of Lilia Kovalenko, the president of our association, but also on behalf of Ukrainian Americans in Washington State. And while I stand here before you, I represent dozens of volunteers that have sorted this aid, hundreds of donors who have donated to this effort, and thousands of Ukrainians here in Washington State and all over the United States and around the world who have woken up on February 24th to the missiles shelling Ukrainian cities. I want to tell you a little bit about our story. While the war, the full-scale war, unprovoked, uninvited, unjust war by Russia started on February 24th, it did not start for us that day. We have been organizing and working and helping Ukraine ever since the first invasion by Russian Federation of Ukraine in 2014. Ukrainian Association of Washington State was a cultural organization. We've been around for 50 years, and we brought Ukrainian culture and tried to share it with the United States. But it all changed for us in 2014. We got very much involved in humanitarian assistance then, and we have been working with our partners in Oregon, the Ukrainian American Cultural Association of Oregon and Southwest Washington, for years, shipping containers of medical supplies to Ukraine. Supplies that were donated by Medical Teams International, an organization that goes to conflict, sources supplies from local area hospitals and sends them to conflict zones. And so once again, in February, we were getting ready to send a shipment of supplies, a container of supplies that was donated by Medical Teams International to Ukraine. But as soon as the war started, it became clear that we cannot put it on a ship and send it to Odessa where it would have gone. And now it's entirely impossible given that the Black Sea is blockaded and mined. So we needed a plane. At the same time, Ukrainian Association of Washington State was getting calls from hospitals around Seattle, from Kaiser, from Overlake, from Northwest Hospital, with offers of medical supplies and medical assistance. And it became very clear to us that this grassroots effort has to scale up. So the story is really about how our community has come together in magical ways. And magic happens when people stand up for what is right. United States, people all over the greater Seattle area in Washington state, people all over the West Coast have come together to ship this life-saving aid to Ukraine. That is the story. And the power of people is what we're marking today. Power of people to come together. Ukrainians have shown that their greatest superpower is their people. And it's their people that Russian Federation is trying to destroy. Ukraine stands today in an existential fight against a superior power in military terms that is set on wanting to destroy Ukraine, not only take its territory, but destroy its people. And we can't let that happen. We are incredibly grateful for the outpouring of support. Ukraine stands today in defense of democracy, on the front lines of democracy, defending the same rights that people in the United States fought for and died for. And so I just want to say thank you to everyone who has made this possible, to all our donors, all our volunteers, all our partners, who has made this moment possible for us to take this life-saving aid and deliver it to Ukraine. One of hopefully many more planes will go to Ukraine to help. Slava Ukraini! God bless America!
Dear honorable guests, everyone that came here to the SeaTac airport this sunny evening. I'm honored to be here with all of you, just looking what's behind us, this airplane, all this cargo of medical supplies, and I'm very proud of all your involvement and help to get this done. As I already mentioned, Ukrainian American Cultural Association of Oregon and Ukrainian Association of Washington State collected supplies from medical teams, international and American team worldwide, to be sent to help our brothers and sisters in Ukraine at this difficult time of unannounced war and Russian invasion of Ukrainian sovereignty, time of death, wounds, human suffering, millions of displaced Ukrainian citizens. Ukrainian American Cultural Association of Oregon and Southwest Washington was founded back in 2007 as a public benefit organization in the state of Oregon. It is an umbrella group consisting of businesses, churches, sports groups, schools, and individuals who want to promote and showcase Ukrainian language, heritage, culture, and traditions. We also provide assistance to needy Ukrainians within the United States and abroad. Our association is a non-partisan, non-sectional, and non-sectarian. Since 2014, when Russia invaded Ukraine, we are collecting and shipping medical supplies to Ukraine. We have shipped 6 full containers of medical supplies and thousands of individual boxes through Christian missions in the state of Oregon and all over Ukraine directly to hospitals and clinics. And In this regards, I want to say thank you to the Medical Teams International, as well as to the Oregon and Washington senators and congressmen for their support to get us connected to this organization. Ukrainian churches and their pastors, members of Ukrainian American Cultural Association, and businesses that support us, especially Delta Logistics LLC, Ukrainian Federal Credit Union, Riverview Community Bank, Oregon Health Science University. I would like to say thank you for our Consul General of Ukraine in San Francisco, Pan Dmitro Kushneruk, for his consul support. In the Bible, in John chapter 15, verse 13, we read the following statement: "Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends." Today, Ukrainians fight against Russian invasion, and Ukrainian brothers and sisters are laying down their lives for their friends, families, and not only for them. They are laying their lives for European and the world freedom. This is the fight between values of the Western democracy and Russian imperialism and communist values. I was born and grew up in Western Ukraine during the Soviet era, and I remember when police and communists were coming to my parents' house to take Bibles and Psalms that were written by my mom's hands. They were penalizing them for so-called illegal Bible and Psalms possession and prayers gathering at our house. Russians want to bring to Ukrainian land this kind of democracy again. Evangelist John in chapter 10, verse 10 says the following: "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy." This is exactly what the Russians invaders in Ukraine are doing today. Devil-possessed leaders of Russia decided to teach Ukrainian people how to live, what language to speak, what people to respect, which churches to go to teach our children, and what is the history of our Ukrainian nation. We are all praying for Ukraine and doing all we can to help Ukrainian people. We are also thankful to the United States of America for not only accepting us as refugees from the former Soviet communist tyranny and making this country our home for us, our parents, our children and grandchildren, but also for continuing support of our homeland, especially at this time when Russian army is killing innocent Ukrainian people, children all over Ukraine. God bless all of you and your families. God bless Ukraine. God bless America.
That's the end of our speakers program, but we like to open it up for our media here on site that would like to take some questions to the folks here up front. Feel free to ask questions. Any questions out there?
I can answer the destination, Lublin in Poland, but we prefer to leave exact details under the wraps right now. Thank you.
All right, seeing no other questions at this point, we're going to have the opportunity for the loading to begin. If we get our speakers, go ahead and turn around towards the loaders here. the first loading here on the right, the closer front side of the aircraft, where there's going to be the place where the first cargo is going to be loaded in. And media, you're welcome to come up a little bit closer to it. We're going to kind of keep an eye on your collars, not to get too close, because you want to make sure that workers have their space to be able to do what they're doing for the loading.
Trójcia.
Thanks for your comments. You were very instructive.
Можна я з вами стану так?
Будь ласка, тільки ж ви так само, я вам з тобою перекину.